Good morning, everybody. It is Sunday, 30th of March, 2025. It is about 10 minutes after 10 in the morning, and it's things are getting warmed up here a bit. But I'll get right into the news. You guys, your time is valuable. Something in my eye. There was some news, and it did not happen last night, even though you have the usual bombings. I didn't read anything about the U.S. bombing Yemen last night. I'm sure they're probably doing it. You know, it's right after a time I'm looking at how many bombs they have, and they seem to have an endless amount of bombs, but who knows, maybe they're getting short and they didn't bomb last night. I don't know for sure. Like I said, I just didn't read anything about it, but they're quieting down a little bit because it's just an ongoing thing and everybody's getting tired of reporting the same thing. Massive bombings. There were some massive bombings, of course, the night before last. But there was other bombings going on. And you guys already know that just a couple days ago, in violation of the ceasefire, as usual, Ukraine, of course, they bombed various places that they're not supposed to be bombing. The energy infrastructure, such as the electricity places and gas lines, things like that. Like somebody throwing away some plastic trim for the floor or something. I have actual wood, to be honest with you. I had to search, and it's actually much, much better. Okay, so yes, they bombed two places, and actually maybe a little bit more. And there's a very strong rumor, but it's not really getting reported so much, only in the Russian press and only in some Russian press, but very credentialed Russian press, that one place that Russia bombed in response to Ukraine bombing and destroying the Sudza. Well, they call it a gas metering station, but obviously the gas goes through there, and when you destroy that, you destroy the gas line. So they destroyed it, Ukraine did, and in violation, of course, of the agreement that they signed. And in response to that, Russia bombed two places, not last night, the night before last. I don't know, that's why they're not talking about this very much, only, like I said, in a few Russian, I guess you would call them mainstream media, but not really even in the blogosphere. Maybe it's very, very much hushed up. That's probably why, and the only ones that got it, the information on this are probably some of those press outlets that are very close to the Kremlin. So let's get on with what I was going to say. So one of the places that they bombed, I believe, and I'm not exactly sure where it was, but apparently it was very massive bombing, and they used their FAB bombs, which is very much like the American Moab, you know, mother of all bombs. Very, very powerful and big bombs. I'm not sure. I think maybe the FAB bombs are even more powerful than the Americans' Moabs. I'm not that sure. I think I've heard rumors about that in the past, but you know, I'm not a weapons expert. And I guess one report was saying that they used 30 of them, 30, which is really, really massive, and it was bombing like some positions on the front line. You know, the front line, you know, the right between where Russia is at and Ukraine is at, and not even exactly sure, but you might start hearing about that maybe today. Maybe they'll be reporting it. I am not sure. Maybe it'll take a day or two. Maybe they won't even report it at all. But the other bombing is also very significant. And I guess the city, how I would say it, I'm not even that sure. I just heard about it today. I didn't want to take the time looking on maps and then figuring out how to pronounce it. But it's on the Dnieper River. It's like Dnipropetrovsk or something like that. There's a few. It's a major city. So I should know, but I haven't even taken the time to try to learn that name. But they bombed at least 7 places there. There was a Ukrainian filming it from his balcony. Some of those, he counted 7, and he showed it to his camera, his video camera. And the more important part about that is one of those was a hotel. And in that hotel were British planners. It was a lot of foreign military. I don't know if there was Americans. Obviously, it was British. And it's also said that they were French as well. the two countries that are most saber rattling right now, and in a sense that is actually probably a good thing. They're the ones that are warmongering big time right now, France and Britain, and pounding their chests. And I don't like, nobody really, well, any decent person doesn't like the loss of any life, whether it be soldiers or anybody else. But only in this case, the silver lining, of course, is that it might show these governments that they're just not, what is it said? I don't know, not impenetrable, but something like Superman, where nothing's going to harm them and they can do whatever they want to do. They're just warmongering, they're pounding their chest. Nothing's going to happen to them anyway, Macron or Starmer, and they're just going to sacrifice their people. Maybe they got that from Zelensky. Maybe the Zelensky curse extends to more than just them getting put out of office in some way. So maybe they take on his personality as well. I think look at this car right up here. This, I believe, is a German car. I think maybe I even showed this before. Maybe it's the identical car. I remember seeing this. It might even say something in the front, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I showed that already. But maybe it's not a German car. Maybe an old German car from the Soviet times. Maybe it's Russian. Okay, but that was the main story. And like I said, it's not been reported, and maybe they won't report it. But part of this might have to do with the reason why Boris Johnson, who's in the United States, I guess, right now, and he's warmongering too, in his own way. He's saying, he's looking at the United States and seeing that there is no federal mandate at all for vacation pay or any social benefits like this, or sick leave, mandated sick leave or sick leave pay and vacation pay, things like that. And so maybe he said the reason why he's suggesting that Europe adopt that same thing, like having no benefits, like the United States has no benefits, none mandated. It depends on maybe the company you're in, if it's unionized or whatever, but like you go to most places in Europe, and Belarus, for example, a lot of that stuff is paid for. You get, you get some good benefits, but not in the United States. So, like dental and things like that, and medical costs are just really expensive, and I don't know. Everything's different, so I'm not even going to talk about that. But yeah, he's talking that you could take that money, if the Europe does that, you could take that money and use it for war. And he's saying, no, the United States has a $1 trillion military budget, and we could do that too. But of course the United States has a far bigger military budget than $1 trillion. When you hear about all the money that disappears in the Pentagon in short periods of time, not just the $12 trillion that was lost that Elon Musk was talking about, how many times do you hear about $3 trillion disappearing, $12 trillion disappearing? Now, do you think that's possible if your budget was only $1 trillion a year? I don't think so. The United States puts far, far, far more money into defense than that. They're fleecing the American people, and they want to be tough. And along with that, of course, J.D. Vance's little speech up there in Greenland. By the way, Trump, I guess, said yesterday that they are 100% going to take Greenland. And he said it's nothing is off the table. So he's basically saying, Vance was saying, I don't think military means are necessary, but Trump he came right out and said, yeah, we'll use the military, but we're going to get Greenland. Wow, 100%, he said. So that's something there. Anyway, so okay, some other stories. One is, it's been discovered, a lot of Ukrainians have been talking about this, and I've mentioned quite a few times about some of this nasty business that goes on in Ukraine and how they're fleecing people. They're fleecing the European Union, they're fleeced the United States, and there's in so many ways. There's one article was put out, and they're showing all of this stuff on sites. They showed you the pages of that, where in Ukraine they're selling all this military gear. A lot of people are selling like just the military food rationings and the uniforms, and just like a big areas filled with a whole bunch of wrapped up uniforms from various countries. So when they're getting all this aid from all these different countries, obviously they're stealing it and then they're selling it. Who's doing it? I don't really know. Obviously a lot of the big shots are doing it. Maybe Mr. Z himself, he's got his own way. When you grow up in a system like that where corruption is the way things are run, I mean, if there is, if it's not running on corruption in Ukraine, it doesn't run. That's what it is. The whole system is built on corruption. It's been that way for a long time, many decades. So they ousted one leader saying, oh, corruption, and so they put another leader in, and it's corruption. Remember all those fights in Parliament, even with Saakashvili, who's from Georgia? Remember they made him the mayor of Odessa, and then they were having fights and they were throwing water in people's faces, in each other's faces and all that. You're corrupt. No, you're corrupt. You're corrupt. No, you're corrupt. The fact of the matter is Saakashvili is very corrupt, and they're all corrupt, to some degree. You cannot function in Ukraine unless you're corrupt. That's how it works. Okay, but one of the other things I was talking about is a lot of the soldiers in there, and they're finding out, and they knew, of course, but they get them to sign documents, and they tell them that it's like insurance documents, and it's for medical care and medical treatment, in case of any serious injuries and afterwards and all that. But in truth, what they're signing, and this has been proven, they're signing consent for being organ donors, so that their organs can be harvested and sold. And you all know Ukraine is one of the biggest organ harvesting countries in the world, and of course Israel is the other one. Israel has their people traveling all around the world, a lot of them in Brazil. And when I was living in the Caribbean, of course I knew about this, and they're going around and getting like kidneys and such from all kinds of people there. And it's I don't know, some people are selling relatives and they take their organs from them, and pretty nasty. And I guess the whole deal is you make huge amounts of money. I'm not trying to encourage anybody to go into this. I'm just saying how terrible it is. And for a healthy young body, and this is not even an exaggeration, healthy young body, when they start harvesting organs and things like even eyes and skin, it's well over $1 million. It's millions of dollars just from one person. So you have some corrupt country, and you have a crazy relative, their brain is all messed up, but maybe otherwise healthy, and they sell that person because they don't even know what their own status is, because they're mentally off. And if it's possible, selling these people and and getting rich. So you keep wondering, why do some people have such nice cars and nice houses and nice apartments and all this stuff? I don't know. And a lot of people were believing, oh, they do it on credit, but it's not always the case. Anyway, just saying that stuff, because I've seen people like that with a lot of money, and they say something, oh, I used to be in the condom business or something, and I've seen even young people, lots of money in their 20s. It was very odd. In it wasn't Barcelona, it was in Alicante, Spain. It was in Alicante, Spain, and there was a guy, like, he's 22 years old. He has his own yacht, and I didn't go to his place, but I don't know if he had a house. I think he had a house, not an apartment, not a nice apartment there on the sea or whatever. But people ask him, oh, how did you get all your money? And he said, I worked hard all my life. And the guy's 22 years old, So, in other words, you can do it too, everybody. Gosh. How he got his money, I'm not saying he's doing the organ thing, but I'm just saying. Anyway, maybe his parents are rich. Like I said, I'm going to school. I'm going to these classes, and there's Africans there and Asians, lots of them, lots of Asians. Not a lot of Africans, but some, there are Africans, and some of them are not super rich. I kind of know. They are there for you know, a lot of them play football on teams in Minsk, so they get paid for that, but it's not that much either. And maybe they have family members that help them out in Africa and all. And most of the Asians, a lot of that. And then there's people from other countries such as Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, and it's in India, and it's amazing. But because the school is not cheap, it is not cheap. It's not cheap at all. And I don't know, I can't remember how much it is, but it's very, very much money. And I'm not even going to stay in because it costs very much. And but a lot of these people from a lot of these countries, very rich people. So and like again, I'm not saying that these people are all corrupt or nothing like that, but it's just that a lot of people have a lot more money than you think. And I don't know. That's all I'll say. Say no more. Say no more. Okay. Eva, let's see. Vlardingerbroek. She was like the first one that I saw that reported this, but they had this one guy. You know, there's been a lot of stabbings lately, lots of people killing, you know, lots of killings lately, and car chases and ramming into people with cars. I mean, it seems like every single day people, you know, going down some busy street or during a protest or something and just plowing through people with their cars and things like that. But there was some big stabber in Holland, stabbing people, going through the streets stabbing people. And somebody was even saying, oh, I'll bet you I know where this guy's from. And it turns out that, yeah, I guess that person, he was suspecting, right, he's from Ukraine, a 30-year-old Ukrainian living off of benefits from the taxpayers of Holland. You know, very nice life, probably in a nice, rich hotel, but just going around and stabbing people. And it's maybe on one side it sounds bad to say this, but like I'm telling you, and I don't, it's not my goal to be putting down Ukrainian people or not, but that system there is quite bad, and there's a lot of people, it makes a lot of people become quite crazy and very corrupt. And I guess how that has worked out, you know, in the system, maybe for a long time, I've reiterated this on a few videos, that they believe that they are beholden and the whole world has to pay for them. That everybody, you know, that they are Ukrainian, and they're told, like for a long time, part of their life, that they are superior, that they are the master race, and that their bloodline is more superior if they're from Ukraine than other people's, and that we all have an obligation to support them. And they're like princes and princesses whenever they go to any other country. And, you know, a lot of beatings, you know, you hear about that, gangs, even in Poland, and a lot of the Polish people are very sick of these people now. A lot of the refugees, I don't know, quite a few of them came to Belarus too. I don't know. I haven't heard of any big incidences. A lot of them went to Russia. I don't know if it's covered up. I don't know. As I said, okay. And she was saying, Eva Vlardinger, also, this guy, they found out he was Ukrainian. And that's on the same day that Holland sent 2 billion euros to Ukraine. You know, it's like these people, they just never get enough. They just, I don't know, these masochists or whatever, they just love this punishment. I don't know. These governments in Europe, you know, you could make a vlog only dedicated to the stupidity of the European leaderships, you know, the politicians over there, and all the stupid crap that they do. You know, they're like purposefully killing their own countries. You know, they want to sacrifice their own people, send them off to get mass slaughtered by the Russians. It's incredible, you know. And it's like, well, what's the goal of all of this? You know, we got to dominate Russia. You know, we gotta make them have a strategic defeat or whatever. And it's like, well, then what? You know, what and why? Why and then what? Oh gosh. You know, obviously they want the resources, you know. They wanted the resources of Ukraine, and now a lot of them are pissed off, like I said, because Donald Trump has kind of checkmated them. You know, they got a new guy in town, Donald Trump, and they're really pissed off. So, you know that. But Boris Johnson, he's trying to play the ameliorator, like I told you, and he's over there and trying. We have to have like the American system, and cut all our benefits off and just rob the people so that we can make war against Russia, and then maybe we can be successful that way. We need just lots and lots more money. We need to militarize. I think that's what he says. A lot of them are saying that over there. Yes. And how? You know what is going on? These people do this, of course, at the expense of their own country. And even in Europe, it's very much like Ukraine. You can just see what's going to happen in Europe. What's just like what's going on and what was going on right before this military operation in Ukraine. It's a hybrid war. Maria Zakharova talked about that. They talk about this in Russia all the time. It's a hybrid war. It's media propaganda blitz. You know, it's kind of slow and small at first, and then of course it takes up speed, and it's like Russia, 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 and you know, in the States now it's China, 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 and anytime that they think they can get away with it, they say China aggression here and all this. I don't know, but you know, they're not done with Russia yet, so they're still pushing that one out. Even the Trump administration, like I told you yesterday in the video, you know, with Vance saying Russian incursion in Greenland, and you know, Putin saying we don't have any desire to have anything to do with Greenland, and we're not going to get involved with anything that has anything to do with Greenland, but yet Russian incursions, and I don't know, they need scapegoats, you know. That's what I said too. I said Russia was scapegoat number one. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, but it's all going to be going more and more into steroids. It's the Hate Russia Club. You got to hate Russia, you know, and it's just like they're overthrowing these elections and doing all this stuff. Look at what's going on in that autonomous region, Gagauzia there. It's part of Moldova, and they're pro-Russian. And like I said, they have their own language. It's a Turkic language there, and it's an autonomous region, as I said. And it's they have their own leadership there. And they threw her in jail. And I think maybe she was out. Maybe she was on house arrest. But now they extended her detention now for 20 more days. You know, and Russia's having a hard time trying to deal with Moldova. One of the things I talked about not long ago in a video was that, you know, even during the winter, things are warming up now, so it's a little bit better. But as Ukraine cut off the gas lines that are going to Europe, and of course they cut it off before Transnistria, so Transnistria was not getting any heating energy, or I don't know if they have electricity even. And then Moldova was cutting it off to Transnistria, so those people were living in cold. They had no heating, nothing like that whatsoever. And Vladimir Putin, you know, made some sort of a deal with Moldova so that they would send some sort of energy, probably at very high prices, and Russia is paying the bill. Russia's paying for it, for Transnistria, even though Transnistria, for the largest part, you could say it's much closer to Moldova than it is to Russia. Somebody likes some stickers here. Drive to Russia. So, okay. Yes, but you know, it's not just Moldova. You know, I don't think they've given up on Georgia yet. I think they're still going for Georgia. Oh, you don't hear so much about it. It's not like you can hear the news from everywhere. And you could look at various sites. Who has the time to do that? Who has the time to sit there and spin through all this things from all these different countries to find things that are not put up on like Sputnik and RT, or God forbid anything from the United States on their channels over there, NPR, you know, stuff like that, fake news channels, CNN and MSNBC and all that kind of crap. Maybe Politico. So, but like I said, it is a hybrid war, and it's mostly information, and this is all just the Hate Russia Club. And if you're not in, you know, then you're the enemy. The assassination attempts on Robert Fico. They've had attempts on Orban, and Orban mentioned that they have been, but they're not talking about him. Maybe they stopped them much earlier. You know, they had some against Lukashenko here in this country, and they stopped them earlier as well. But you know, they were big things, and they were sometimes some former military leaders, and of course they're trying to stage some things, looking for ways to use like this what's Kalinovsky regiment or whatever, you know, which were like Belarus. It's named after some hero from the past or whatever, some sort of a partisan. And anyway, but there's this group, and and they're mostly in Poland and Baltic countries and all that, and they want to militarily come and take over Belarus. Uh, right now, a lot of them are gone. A lot of them died in Ukraine. They were bombed. So who knows what they have, like 100 people now or whatever. And Tikhanovskaya, she's very much behind these people. And she was talking about hoping, Tikhanovskaya, she was opposition back in 2020, and she was leading these big protests, these violent protests against the government. And then she took off and she went to Lithuania, and she's living high on the hog, getting, bigger and bigger and heavier and fatter, eating a lot of food over there. And they have her in these meetings, and they call her the exiled president of Belarus, even though there is absolutely zero information that she won, zero whatsoever. I mean, even if they think that they got information that Lukashenko might have cheated, there's nothing that says that she would have won. A lot of the people that don't like Lukashenko said they would never vote for her. So it's like, I don't know where she comes up with this kind of stuff. So, and it's not that like Lukashenko had 80 and she had 20. It was just that maybe 80% voted for Lukashenko and the other ones voted for either nobody else or, I don't know, various other parties, like maybe 3 or 4 other parties. I don't know how many were running. And of course, they're still going after Romania and not letting that other guy run. I mean, that's democracy over here. Anyway, I've talked about this stuff before. So, you're seeing that the UK and France, they talk about peace through escalation. And Trump will act like he's against that. But then you look at what is Trump doing in Yemen, and letting Netanyahu. What is he letting him do, in Gaza, on the West Bank, Lebanon, and Syria, and all that, with him bombing all the neighbors and all that. I mean, it's not any different. It's peace through escalation. And then he just gets a whim and says, oh, there's some terrorists somewhere, and just bombs some neighborhood in Syria. I don't know how many thousands of people. I mean, I'll tell you what, they get somebody that doesn't like somebody, and then they go to Israel and say, oh, there's a terrorist living here, and they just bomb it. They probably, anything that anybody reports about some place, if you got some kind of enemy, and they'll bomb the place. I'm sure that's what Israel is doing right now. Yes. Anyway, what else is there? I talked about that already. Secretary of Defense Hegseth. You guys heard about those 4 American soldiers that disappeared, I think it was 6 kilometers from the Belarusian border in Lithuania, and it's just way too strange. It's like their vehicle went underwater or something like that. So what were they doing? It's not freezing. If it is freezing, it's definitely not even cold enough to where you can walk on where you can walk on the ice at all with your. So how are you going to take a vehicle on there? So it's not like they were trying to drive over some ice or who knows what they were doing. It's I don't know. And I've heard reports that they got stuck in the mud. So it's kind of like these guys with motocross. Look at this. You can leave this stuff just using a bungee cord. Sitting out in Belarus. And look at right by a road. If you think somebody would have driven by and just very quickly rush out here and grab the stuff, throw it in the back of your truck and take off, cover up your license plate, steal it. I mean, but they don't really do that stuff in Belarus, so that's how it is. But look at, they have an American Ram truck, a diesel of some sort, double cab, actually nice truck. So, so what else here? Well, I was going to say a little bit more about this thing going on in Gagauzia. This Maya Sandow. She obviously, a lot of people are saying, and it's pretty much been proven, that she cheated on the election, or her party cheated on the election recently. And it's not that this girl from Gagauzia was running for that election at all, but anyway, whoever the opponent was. But it's pretty much well proven, even people in her own party know that they cheated to make sure that she's in. And of course, maybe it's the European Union, because, you know, like I said, you have to hate Russia, and she hates Russia, or at least she says she does. And anybody that does not hate Russia will not get elected. They will fight tooth and nail. They will do everything possible to make sure that nobody that does not hate Russia will ever get a position. You must hate Russia. If you don't hate Russia, you will not be the leader of any country in the European Union or even around it. Serbia is not in the European Union. So, matter of fact, what is Moldova? No, Moldova, they're trying to get into NATO. I don't know. It's about the same thing as far as I'm concerned. NATO and the European Union. You know. Oh, Boris Johnson, by the way, I just mentioned something about him. He also came out and said there is no alternative to NATO. It's like the greatest thing on earth. Well, that's a bunch of BS, of course. You guys know that. I mean, obviously. I mean, are these guys just a bunch of stupid idiots? These guys got to be incredibly stupid. You know, they're even talking about an EU army. Well, how difficult is it if the United States backs out, that they have all this NATO structure there? Why don't they just say, okay, this is the army of the European Union? Ooh, a bunch of friggin' stupid idiots. You know, oh, we can't do that because we have to do some paperwork. I don't know. At least Trump, you know, being an entrepreneur, you can think out of the box, but some of these politicians are just, I don't know. You just cannot believe how incredibly stupid these people are, you know. Like, hey, I was an entrepreneur. I made a lot of money. I made it in a small country. I was thinking outside the box, and everybody said I couldn't do it. It wasn't very difficult. I mean, I've done a lot of things like that. You can't do this. You guys have probably done that a lot of time in your life too. Oh, you can't do that. That can't be done. And you say, well, I don't see why not. You go ahead and try it, and it actually works. I don't know. Many times in my life. So you guys all know that about how things have gone. I'm sure a lot of you people are like that too. But a lot of times it's like, well, what do you have to sacrifice to do that? You know, you have to put a lot of time into things. You maybe have to have a lot of money. So, I don't know. I've seen people make a lot of money. I've known them when they didn't have hardly anything, and they had a good idea, and now they're multimillionaires. I've seen quite a few like that. I don't know, and I've known people, they just keep on making money. They just keep on setting up different businesses, and they make a lot of money. So anyway, like I said, it's what you want to sacrifice to get that far. And of course, a lot of time you need money, and it's always a risk. It's always a risk. That's the bad part. But the more the risk, the harder you have to work. Let's just go that way. I was going to say something else about old Defense Hegseth. It doesn't, you know, this disappearance of these 4 soldiers, it doesn't really make sense either. There's something weird going on there. And I don't know. I think it was Emil Kosman. He said something like that. Maybe in a year or so, we're going to find out the real truth about what's going on there. And I remember when I was in the military, I worked in places where you had some access to certain kind of information. And I remember there were American soldiers. They, you know, some of them getting together, and they were defecting at that time to the Soviet Union into Eastern Germany. And, you know, the worst part about that is what happened is some of these people, they had some equipment and all that, and they thought that they would get welcomed with open arms. And I don't even know why in the heck they would do that. They back in those days, how can you find out what it was like in East Germany? So they were defecting over there, and on one occasion they sent them back. The East Germans, they sent them back into Western Germany, back to their side. I don't know what happened to them. Probably got into some big trouble. Probably did some time in Fort Leavenworth or something. I've known a few soldiers back then that went to Fort Leavenworth for other things. Yeah, so anyhow, Anyway, there's not that much more. A few things I should talk about is it's strange that these people talk about more about stupid people. These people that are going around and they're burning Teslas, and I think torching the Teslas for democracy and things like that. You know, it's like, what the heck are these people? You know, somebody who bought a Tesla, maybe they don't even like Elon Musk anymore. Maybe they have a Tesla. Maybe they want to sell it. I have no idea. But these people are going around, and there's I guess cameras on Teslas a lot of the time, and so these people are scratching and putting swastikas and things like that on them, and they're getting them on camera, and it looks like they're having severe punishments for doing that. And then there was one place, I guess they I think outside of the dealerships, they're lighting all the Teslas on fire, probably dousing them with gasoline and lighting them on fire. I don't have any idea. You know, and it makes me wonder, does Elon Musk have these insured? Of course, his insurance bill is going to be raised up quite a bit, but I don't even know how much that actually hurts him. Yeah. And another point right now, when you saw J.D. Vance going up to into Greenland, you know, they're talking about, you know, I was talking about Russia. You know, they're even doing they're part of that, you know, in the Trump administration. A little bit, so, you know, they're not going to go overboard because, you know, it was pretty ridiculous while they were, what is it called, in the wilderness, when they were not in government, the Republicans, so they're probably not going to go overboard on that themselves. But as far as the Arctic is concerned, I don't really know why, but they want to have like a race. It's much better than that much of an arms race, but of course it concerns an arms race of putting military in the Arctic. That's one part of it. But the United States says that they want to beat Russia in everything to do with the Arctic. And there was a photo taken with Donald Trump and the, I guess the president, the prime minister of Finland. You know, the guy that Zelensky just went and met, you know, and he's also a big, you know, big hate Russia fan. Hate Russia. You know, it's really strange. You know, they had a deal made in heaven, the Finnish people, neutrality, and they could be friends with anybody that they want. And Trump should already know that the deep state, Soros, all those people, they got Finland into the Hate Russia Club. Maybe they didn't like it before, but historically, Finland, and catch this, is a part of Russia. Finland is a part of Russia. It used to be part of the Russian Empire, you know. So, oh boy, surprise there, huh? Anyway, Russia gave them their independence, gave it to them basically, as long as they stay neutral. And Finland, as you know, not long ago, they just decided they're not going to be neutral anymore. They want to join NATO, and they did join NATO, and, you know, they joined the Hate Russia Club. And there was no real bad animosity between Finland and Russia, but I guess maybe now. And they're losing a huge amount of revenue. They closed the border, and they're finding out they're losing a lot of money. So I think maybe they're opening up the border again. They're doing a lot of, you know, backtracking. But of course, they're still in the Hate Russia Club, and now they made a huge bomb shelter. All these countries, they really want to go to war against Russia. They think, you know, I mean, how many times has that happened in history where, you know, they go to war against Russia and they find out that they lose their asses? There's some lady, looks like she wants to walk exactly on that path where I was standing. So she didn't want to go on this path. She wanted to go on that path back there. So anyway, Finland. Donald Trump played golf with the guy, and I guess part of this thing, what they were talking about, I guess they won too. I guess they were in some little tournament there with the club, I think, and they won. Oh, surprise. And Donald Trump wants to buy some icebreakers from Finland. You know, how many they make, who knows? Russia has more, no matter what. I guess if you look at all of those people in the Scandinavian countries against Russia, Russia still has more than all of them combined. So I don't know what Finland is going to be able to sell to the United States. Right now, the United States has one icebreaker, and I don't know how many Russia has. And I read that, but I can't even remember. I think it's more than, I think they have 8 nuclear, and and there's maybe 16 that were not nuclear. I'm not positive, but they have a lot more icebreakers than anybody else. And 8 nuclear-powered icebreakers. Big ones, I guess. So anyway, the United States says they want to beat Russia in the Arctic. You know, they're a long way behind, and if they do plan on doing that, it's going to take at least more than a decade, maybe a decade and a half if they really push it. If the United States gets a lot of money, makes you wonder, why in the heck would they want to do that? You know, where are they going to do it? Where are they going to do it? There in Russia? They can go ahead and they have Alaska, the Alaska area. Maybe that's why they want Canada to be one of the 52nd state, of course, after Greenland. You know, just like Rob Schneider says, you know, wait your turn. Greenland's going to be the 51st state. Canada, wait your turn. You're going to be the 52nd state. So, anyway, and it turns out that this guy, whoever he is, Crowley or something, the guy who's in charge, are going to be the next prime minister of Canada. Apparently, he's a client of Epstein. He went to Epstein's Island or whatever the heck, deep state kind of stuff, and I have no idea. I mean, it looks like there's a whole bunch of scandals, and some people are saying, well, you cannot become the Prime Minister of Canada unless you have a lot of scandals. So apparently, anyway. So that's about all I have to say for now, and hope you guys have a good weekend. If I didn't mention it, it's Sunday right now, and yeah, not a lot of people are watching the videos lately anymore, and I'm going to probably be doing some traveling at some point in time. I don't know, but I have to talk about news. I have to get it off my chest, you know. So travel and talk about news. Okay. Well, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Probably tomorrow. Tomorrow early, and I'll have the usual 6 hours that YouTube takes to upload a 30-minute video or some. Anyway, okay. I'll see you then. Bye-bye.